Oh, welcome to today's event brought to you. Okay, welcome again to today's event brought to you by RCCGCR in Nottingham, United Kingdom, and powered by Voxnet Solutions Limited. My name is Dilio Gundano, and I'm the host of today's program. Now, before we start, I would like to invite Pastor Vincent Ibikunle to lead us in opening prayer. Pastor Vincent, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. I want to start by saying thank you to our panelists for today's program, for joining us all the way from Kent in UK and all the way from Nigeria. I would like to say thank you to Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips for being part of us today in the sixth of the series of our post-COVID conferences. I want to say thank you, ma'am, for joining us. I also want to say thank you to my junior brother, to Dr. Ibikunle, all the way from Nigeria, for agreeing to be part of this wonderful program that I know will be a blessing to each and every one of us this afternoon. We are talking about financial planning and stability. And I believe that by the grace of God, in the next 1 hour or thereabouts, with the wealth of experience gathered and garnered over the years by our two panelists, all and each and every one of us will definitely learn one or two new things. So I want to say thank you for being part of today's program. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we want to say thank you for your goodness and your grace to us all. Thank you for every member of the team that has been powering this program for the past 5 weeks. Thank you for the sixth one in this series, and thank you for your children who have agreed to be part of this conference today. Father, we ask that you be the chairman of this meeting, and Lord God Almighty, we also pray that through your children, the lives of many of us will turn around for the better from today in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for in Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen. Thank you. Have a wonderful time. Over to Brother Daly.
Thank you so much, Pastor. So as I mentioned earlier, welcome again to today's virtual event. And in today's virtual event, the theme for our discussion is centered on financial planning and stability and the impact of COVID-19 on our world economy and its effect generally on our investment. Now, to assist us with the discussion of today, we have two experts to help us in answer some of the questions, pertinent questions that we have in our mind. And we have Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips, an investment management expert, to help us, and Mr. Tokwe Ibikunle, child accountant, to assist us with some of these questions. Now, before we start, let me remind you that if you have any question you want to ask as the program proceeds, if you look at your screen at the very bottom, you see the details for posting your question through Slido. So please use those details if you have any question you want to ask our experts as we continue. So let's start very quickly with a brief introduction of our two guests we have in today's program. And I will start with Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips. First of all, Mrs. Judith Phillips is the MD CEO of Deus Trinitas Consulting Limited. She has been an investment management professional with 25 plus years experience in financial services, including real estate. In the past, Mrs. Judith Phillips was the director's European portfolio operations at BlackRock London and in New York. She was the vice president fund financial controller at Morgan Stanley. She was the head of fund finance at Round Hill Capital LLC, and she has been in the past head of property accounting at HSBC Fund Services, and she's also been the fund's transition manager at AXA Investment Managers. Welcome, Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips. Welcome, ma. And also we have with us Mr. Tokwe Ibikunle, who has 2 decades experience in treasury management, tax management, operations, financial control, and strategy spanning across several industries. He's led financial control team in integrating the assets of the defunct First Alliance Limited and ERM Pensions in 2010. He is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers of Nigeria, and is currently a level 2 candidate of the CFA Institute, and has completed his MBA in Lagos State University in 2012. Currently, he is the vice president and serves as head of finance at ERM Pension Managers, a prominent PFA in Nigeria, where he provides leadership to the finance team and plays a prominent role in strategy formulation and implementation. You can see that the experts we have here today, they are quite experts in their own area. So welcome, Mr. Tokwe Ebikunle. Welcome, sir. And thank you very much for joining us in today's program. Welcome, Mr. Judy Phillips.
Thank you, sir, for having me here. My sincere apologies go, and my sincere appreciation goes to the organizers of this program, and as well as the pastor in charge. And I want to say a big thank you to my pastor, Judith Phillips, over there, which I believe I'm going to gain a lot of things even from her in the course of our discussion today. Thank you for having me here. Thank you very much.
Okay. This is Judith Phillips, ma. You want to say?
Yes, sir. I want to echo that acknowledgement as well. Thank you very much for having me on this platform. And my deep appreciation goes to Pastor Vincent Ebikunle for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to actually speaking with my colleague, Brother Tokwe Ebikunle, also on this. And, you know, with your wealth of expertise in Nigeria, which is an area that I'm very, very quite blank, well, not blank, I wouldn't say, but not an expert in. I'm looking forward to learning one or two things from you as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ma. It seems it's going to be a lot of learning experience today. So I'll start with Mrs. Judith Phillips, Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips. I don't know if you want to say something very quickly before I go into some of the questions I already have with me here, Ma.
Yeah, I actually put a quick slide together. I don't know whether you want me to actually go through that right now.
Yes.
Which I think it's quite important that we kind of introduce the subject at, you know, at the grassroots level, because there's no point talking over people's head. It's important for us to, you know, have some visual and understand exactly what we're talking about. You know, the theme for today, it says financial planning and stability, impact of COVID-19 on world economy and its effect on your investment. Frankly, you know, financial planning itself, it's a tool to have stability in anything that you want to do. If you don't plan, then it means that everything is going to be topsy-turvy, things will not be steady. But when you have a plan in place and you keep revisiting those plans, then it gives you an opportunity to actually say, am I still on track to fulfilling my goals? So I just have like about 8 slides that I want to quickly run through right now. And I'm relying on the organizers to help me actually display that slide. So I don't know if you can all see the slides.
Yes, they can see it. Go ahead, Ma.
Okay. So the first slide, the question there says, why have you committed 1 hour of your life to listen to this broadcast? Because frankly, time is life. Life is money. You know, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. So the fact that you're actually on this broadcast today means that there is something in your life that you want to change. Or, you know, you are doing it well, maybe not, you know, you want to take it to the next level. So you have made a change, a choice to be on this broadcast because you want to learn something new. It could be that things are not working so well, so you want to improve where you are at. And that's the reason why you are here. So, you know, my 3 C's in life is like something that somebody shared with me, and they just articulated what I was actually thinking, which was, you know, your choices, the choice that you have made to take a chance basically means that you will have a desired change. But if you make a choice not to plan, then, you know, change may not happen. So I think life will just keep happening to us. So I'm hoping that we have pen and paper, and that we will be, you know, as we will be talking, you will be making notes as to what you need to change in your own financial journey. Now, the next question then is the next slide. You say, what is a financial plan? there is a whole host of, kind of like definition around this. I mean, some of them are like several paragraphs long. But I've kind of, the one that I love the most, which I think it can be applied to both business and individual, is the one that Investopedia.com actually stated. It said, a financial plan is a document containing a person's current money situation and long-term monetary goals, as well as strategies to achieve those goals. So, and one of the things that I actually have, which has always been a burden for me, is especially within the Black African community, we tend to kind of like live day to day, not really having a solid plan in place as far as financial goals are concerned. We have goals for our children to go to university. We have goals for ourselves to acquire a PhD and all of that. But a lot of the time, we don't have financial goals. And these are the things that we need to begin to teach ourselves and actually teach our children, so that wealth within the Black community can be sustained. And what is a financial plan? I think the definition I gave there is quite apt. And then it says, it's a lifelong process. Planning, you can't just plan this year and then leave it and keep that same plan evolving every single year. That's not actually having a solid plan in place. That will not maintain stability. When you have a plan today, you have to keep reviewing those plans. And so the process I've actually highlighted here. The first process is evaluate your current situation. If you look at that definition at the beginning, evaluate your current situation. If you don't know where you are, you can't know the gap between where you are and where you want to get to. So it's important that we understand the position that we are in right now. Then that will help us to then begin to say, okay, these are the gaps I need to plug, and this is what I have left at the end of the day, and that I have opportunity to play with, whether to invest or to save or to do whatever else you want to do with it. So it's very important for us to evaluate our current situation. And I cannot overemphasize the word budget. It's a word that a lot of people don't like. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at any organization that is successful, they cannot go from one year to another without a budget. They plan next year's budget this year so that they have a focus, they have a goal. And the same thing applies to people. People tend to think, oh, it's a company, so that is required of them. But I would say to you, you as an individual, I don't know, I mean, I'm a Christian, and as an individual, God actually called us nations. And for a nation, it means you have people that surround you. So as a nation, you are actually a company. A company, you are the one that is leading that company, but you have stakeholders around you. Your stakeholders are your children. Your stakeholder is your husband or your wife. And those are the people that you need to get together as your board members to sit down and work out your financial goals. You shouldn't leave the children out. This is the reason why we a lot of the mistakes we have made, our children are coming along, they're making the same mistake because we never taught them. So it's important that we teach our children the value of money and the fact that when you apply yourself, you will, value will be added to you, and that value will multiply as time goes on. So it's important to understand where you are. So budget, as I said, is very important. Then set financial goals, as I said. And I will talk more a little bit, I'll talk a little bit more about setting financial goals in a moment. Then when you set the financial goals, please take action. It's no good you sitting down, putting the budget down, and then saying, okay, this is where I want to be at the end of the year. And then you do nothing about it. You have to, every single month, meticulously monitor what you have put down. Then the next thing is you must monitor for life changes. So I have done my, my budget. This is the goal that I'm setting. But as a single person, you are going to get married. So if you are going to get married, then what plans are you putting in place financially for the time when you do get married? And I'm speaking to both the male and the female. This nonsense about this, the man that provides for the house and then the woman is just, a support. We are both supporting one another. Our monies, should come together and be planned on. And so we must monitor for life changes. If you are married, when are you planning to have children? What are you putting in place that when I go on maternity leave, how is that going to be covered without me suffering? If I choose to stay home for 6 months, is that going to be a strain on the family? Those are things that we need to be figuring out. And as I said, when you monitor for life changes, you would then have to, it's a cyclical process. You evaluate, you set goals, you take action, you monitor the monitor the goals that you have set, and then look at, okay, what has changed in my life? Now I have a baby. Actually, now that I have a baby, I need to increase my life insurance. Oh, I'm getting married, or we just got married. I need to actually get a life insurance because I'm no longer by myself. So these are things that we need. So we need to recalibrate, set new goals, and then take action again, and then do the cycle all over again as life changes. And that essentially is what financial plan is all about. And all of that will actually bring you stability, because you know exactly where you are. You are monitoring what is going on. And so stability comes. Nothing will come to you by surprise. And so the next slide then is on budget. There is I have quite a few people that I mentor. You will see that on this particular slide, there is a name on there, Beneratio Finances. This is one of my mentees. Her name is Benedicta. In order to help you, she is qualified. She's a qualified accountant. She actually, she has a blog on Instagram that she, kind of like regularly updates people. She has this, there's something called Money Manager tool. You can find it on her website. It's all listed on the right-hand corner. You can go to that website, download the Money Manager tool. You can also request for her to, kind of like help you do a financial analysis. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? Obviously, the initial consultation is free. After that, obviously there is a charge, but your initial consultation is free. She will help you devise where you are, and then you can work towards where you need to be. Budget, I can't go into the details here, but if you look at that, you need to establish, okay, what income do I have? All the money that I get every month, and then look at your expenses. Your expenses fall into 3 buckets. Your first bucket is your fixed income, fixed expenses. The second one is semi-fixed, and the other one is flexible. Your fixed is your rent, and your mortgage, your tithe, as a believer, your council tax for us that are in the UK. Your semi-fixed are your utilities, your insurance, food. They're semi-fixed because it's as how much of your electricity you use will determine how much you're going to pay. Again, then your flexible are your entertainment, holiday, fashion, things like that you can do without. If you don't have to pay for those, you don't have to. So those are your 3 buckets. And after you have looked at this, what is left at the end of the month? That is what you then have to play with. That is what you can then consider you want to invest. Now, I don't want to go too much into the details of the budget. That is something that Benedicta can help you with. The information is there on the screen. You can screenshot it and then go back and connect with her later on. I know she's listening, so she will welcome, your contacts so that, she can help you in the best way she possibly can. I highly recommend her. So let me move on. Then the next slide says key financial goals. What are key financial goals? You got secured debt. Secured debt is actually something that is positive. Secured debt is, a debt that you have acquired as a result of actually acquiring an asset. So basically, when you buy your property, you acquire the mortgage. The two, your asset and liability, they more or less cancel each other out. So even if if you can't keep up your payments, may you not lose your house, but the bank can take the house and you can walk away from it. But ultimately, that's a good debt. But the debt that is not so good are the ones that are unsecured. Personal loans, store cards, catalogs, all of those stuff. They are not secured. And a lot of time, most people have a lot of debt in this area. Now, the question is, what are you trying to achieve? You want to save, yes? But if you have unsecured debt, it doesn't make any sense. The reason is this. If you want to go and save, you're saving money, you have thousands in the bank account, but the interest that you're earning on those savings are negligible. At this point, it's almost zero. But in the meantime, your unsecured debts are something like 29% APR. So you are paying a massive amount of interest, but then you've got savings that is not really doing you any good. So it's better for you to load all your savings into the unsecured debt, pay them off, then you will have more money in your hand to actually then save or invest. So that's one, the first key financial goals is get rid of your unsecured debt as soon as possible. Then you have more money to play with. And then the next financial goal is once you are able to save or you have a regular amount that you are saving, purpose in your heart that every year I'm going to increase my savings by, say, 10%. So if I'm saving 100 pounds every month this year, next year you should be looking to save 110 pounds. Number one, because of time value of money, what 100 pounds buys this year will not be able to buy next year. So those you need to kind of factor into your financial goals. Also, I mentioned earlier, save to buy your property, save to, to get married. In this country, in the United Kingdom, if you wanted to buy a property to get a mortgage, you would need at least, 10% deposit in order for you to be able to buy the property. So that's a goal that you need to determine as soon as you come out of university. Also, if you already have a mortgage, one of your financial goals should be that I want to pay down my mortgage as soon as possible. So every year when you get a bonus, please put your bonus into your mortgage rather than use it to go on holiday or use it to go on a shopping spree. Put your bonus into your mortgage, or at least maybe say to yourself, I'm going to use maybe 20% of my bonus on myself and the family, but the remaining 80%, we're going to use it to pay down our mortgage. You'll be amazed how quickly your mortgage will disappear. A 30-year mortgage, if you keep adding bonuses to it every single year, you will be amazed that after about 5 years, you would have knocked off 5 years out of the lifespan of your mortgage. So that's very important. Then also children's savings. If you start having children, please, you need to put some money aside for those children for their future. The reason I'm saying that, I mean, by God's grace, God gave us, kind of like a wisdom to actually be putting money aside in an investment plan for our children. Our first daughter left university without debt. She did not borrow any money from the government. We paid from the investment that we put together, and then whatever the rest of it is, obviously, God help us to take care of it. But if we did not have that buffer, it would have been challenging. She would have had to take a mortgage. So now she has all her money that she has been earning since she left university. She has been saving it towards her property. And the same thing we have in place for both our middle child and our last child. They all have their investments. And so that's something that I want to encourage us. And like I said, teach your children the value of money, please. I cannot overemphasize that. Then one of your key financial goals is get a life insurance. As Christians, a lot of the time be like, oh, it's not my portion, I will not die young and stuff like that. Well, the people who die young, they did not offend God, but it just happened. So the truth of the matter is get a life insurance, be responsible. These are the reasons why we don't pass on wealth to our children. It's sustainable wealth because we leave them without any cover. So they are having to cover our debts. It's very important. Please get a life insurance. One of the analogies I sometimes use to people who say, oh, it's not my portion. I will, that's like testing faith. I say to them, well, do you have car insurance? And if the answer is yes, then, I mean, did you plan to have an accident? Is that the reason why you got life insurance? You are getting life insurance because the government compels you to get it. So why can't you compel yourself to make sure that you secure the destiny of your children and your own yourself? And then another financial goal is, please look to the future. You are never too young to begin to think about your retirement fund. It's very important. And then the final point, again, which a lot of Christians just to say, oh, I don't want to because I'm not planning to die yet. Well, nobody plans it. Nobody knows when. Protect your wealth. Protect your wealth by writing a will. If you don't write a will, then you leave it to the government to dispose of your wealth as they see fit. So it's a key point that I cannot overemphasize is protect your wealth, write a will. Tell the government, and the thing is, they're not even expensive. You can do them online these days. You don't need to get a solicitor. The only thing you need a solicitor for is for them to help you witness it and for it to be registered. And that's all you need a solicitor for. You can write it yourself. So, it's nothing to, to think, oh, that's another expense. And if you need to get a solicitor to help you do it, if you have friends who are solicitors, they can help you do it. Or if you have to pay, in our country here, if you go to a notary public or whatever they call them, you can pay like £5 to £10 for them to help you witness it and sign it. So it's nothing that we should look at with levity. Then the final point, and which is the place that I want to kind of try and end this, is like the investment. If after you've done or you're in budget, your budget, you have set your financial goals, you have a bit more money to spend or a bit more money that you have saved, that you want to then begin to invest, because we all know savings these days it's like almost zero interest rate. So you need to do something else with your money. And the something else with your money is investment types and risk appetites. The next slide there is giving you the different types of investments, their risk profile, and what the potential return on those investments. Now, I need to state here, I am not a financial advisor. And all of these are things that I practice, things that I have done with the companies that I worked in, but I am not a certified financial advisor. So I'm not giving advice here. I am just giving an overview of what you can get out there. So the investment you got, I said regular savings with bank. That basically is zero risk. You put your money, or close to zero risk. You put your money in the bank. Any bank that you put your money in, up to £85,000 per institution, you are covered. So if there are anybody listening to me that you have £100 in $100,000 in cash or something in the bank account, you are actually not doing yourself. You are doing yourself a disservice, apart from the fact that you are getting zero interest on it. Also, if that bank folds up, you will only get £85,000 back. So you need to, you know what they say about putting all your eggs in one basket. This is the one where you need to really split it. Put 85,000 with one institution, or whatever is left, spread them around to other institutions. So then you know the Financial Services Compensation Scheme in the United Kingdom only covers you for £85,000 per institution. So again, because the risk is zero, the return on investment also is close to zero. Then moving down the risk model. Treasury bills, gilts, corporate bonds, certificate of deposit, bullions, gold iShares, property, dividend-paying stocks. Those are low risk, and their return also is low to medium risk. Stocks and shares, ISA, diversified portfolio. What do I mean by that? It means that you have both low, middle, and high risk investment, and so that's your portfolio. So even if one investment tanks, you still have, your low to medium still supporting the one that is actually, gone through the floor. But with high risk investment, also the returns are very high. So it's very, very important that we bear that in mind. And then you have the, the high end of the spectrum of risk, which is the biotech shares, FX trading, options, crypto assets, Bitcoin, crowdfunding, PTP lending, that's peer-to-peer lending. Those are high-risk investments. And obviously, if they work out the way you planned it, they are more likely to obviously bring in very high returns. So it depends on your risk appetite. And I pray that the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. My final slide there really says that, because we are talking about COVID-19, and the one thing I have to say about this is just a wake-up call for a lot of us. When whatever happens, if we don't plan for our future, the future will just happen on us, because the future is going to come. So today is the future. Now, the last slide there, where I said that COVID-19, the market crashed. The market crashed between the end of February and I think mid-March. But only the brave really have been able to make money on this. The examples that I've given there, the first one is an iShares. iShares were based on physical gold. And you can see that if you had bought 100 shares on 31st of March, when the market was at the bottom, you would have got 11% return back, as of, I think 23rd on Tuesday this week. If you had sold that stock, you would have got 11% return. The same thing, Square. Square is a U.S. company that they use what's it called? Where you can use your mobile phone to pay. That is what their software. I mean, it's a tech company. Again, their market went to the floor on the 19th of March, and 3 months later, we're talking 175% return. And the story goes on. Another one of them actually, one of them I actually own shares there. I'm not telling you which one, but I bought it slightly just after the floor. So I bought it like about the 1st of April. But today, the price is, obviously over 100% of what I actually invested. Only the brave can go into the stock market. But one thing I will say to you is, before you go in there, please know the company that you want to invest in. There are safer investment, especially dividend-paying companies, the likes of Marks and Spencers, the likes of John Lewis, the likes of Microsoft. They are dividend-paying companies, although they are also quite expensive to buy at the moment, but you will be getting income from the investment you are making. So that's why those ones are kind of like middle of the range type investment. And those are, the opportunities that a crash in the market can actually present to anyone that is actually brave enough to jump in at that time. And the interesting thing is prices, these shares are now, they're all going back up. There is always something to bear in mind when you're investing in shares. When the market goes or the price falls, look for the reasons why the price why the price fell. Because if the reason the price fell is natural, it's something that affected every other company, not just this company, then you need to understand that this was a market thing. It wasn't that the company has stopped doing what they were doing. They're still doing what they're doing. It's just that the market affected everybody in the same way. So when things like that happen, it's not the time to start, kind of like dumping your stock if you already have stock. It is the time to actually hold your nerve, because that company will come back up. They have not stopped what they were doing before. The market, the effect of that situation was market-wide, so it wasn't specific to them. So that is another indication why we should hold on to shares that we already have, or that would be the time for you to jump in and actually buy some really cheap shares, because it's going to go up. And that's the end of my presentation, and I'm sure there will be question and answer after this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that interesting, should I call it eye-opener? Thank you so much. It's quite interesting.
Thank God.
So I'll just go straight to Mr. Tokwe Bikule, sir. So how crucial is it for individuals to plan their finances? Take into consideration that Mr. Judy Phillips has given us that very detailed introduction. How crucial do you think it is for individuals to plan their finances?
Thank you for that question. First and foremost, let me thank my sister. She has touched base with virtually everything that we have here today to discuss about. And I'm just going to add few things to what she has said and answer your question. Like she said, financial planning. He spoke extensively on financial planning. The reason why you have to plan. If you don't plan, you will fail. If you don't plan, there is a need for every one of us to plan. And if you don't plan at the right time, you will fail. And that's the more reason you are seeing, even though most of the businesses around the world today, they fail because they didn't plan at the right time. Going back to your question, that how important for us to plan. Number one, you said something concerning financial embarrassment. What financial embarrassment? Because what you did not plan for, uncertainty is something that is normal. It will always come. But if you prepare and you plan ahead of time, when uncertainty, future like that, then definitely you have a plan, a backup plan that will help you to be able to address that problem. So for financial embarrassment, she spoke concerning life assurance policy. The reason why you need to have insurance is for family security.
That's right.
Because like he said, a lot of Christians, we believe so much that, okay, maybe some people must have seen, that's the more reason that they died early. Not knowing that this thing is inevitable. It will surely come, but you don't know the actual time that it will come.
That's right.
So you have to protect your family when you have life assurance, even though after your departure, your children and your spouse, they have something they can rely on, and it will help them to be able to continue from that point. Then another important thing that you need is for you to maximize your income, maximization of income. You have, for example, you are a worker, you earn income. you stand the risk that that very day that they ask you to leave that job, there is no way that you can survive. So what it means is that the income that you are getting from your employment today, you set aside portion of that income and invest it so that if unusual event occurs in future, definitely you have something that you can fall back on so that you're able to address that problem. You can continue with your life. That one will not lead to emotional trauma or depression. Because the reason why you see a lot of people going to depression these days is because there were no adequate financial planning from when they started. And your financial planning, let me tell you sincerely, has to start from day one. Day one is the first day you got employment, that you were employed. So that day one, you have to start planning, okay, at different points in your employment, what do I need to do? Like what she said the other time, when you are earning £100, it's clearly different from when you are earning £200, meaning that you have to spend on essential commodities, things that are essential. Not essential, you pay little attention to it. I'm not saying they might be good to have, but they are not important because they are not adding value. So increase in your salary does not necessarily mean that you have to increase the amount that you are spending on luxury goods. It gives you an opportunity to be able to increase your investment. So it's so important for maximization of income. I've mentioned family security. Then it will help you to invest appropriately, because the money that you set aside, like he said, that £85 is the minimum in UK. In Nigeria, we have access to a lot of credit facility now. There is difference between economic crisis and financial crisis. What we are experiencing currently in Nigeria is economic crisis, not financial crisis. Financial crisis is the worst. So what we are experiencing is economic crisis. So government has put something together that will help people to be able to access loan easily. There is nothing bad in accessing a line of credit, but don't use credit for consumption. Like he said, use it for secured investment, secured asset, so that it will generate additional income that will help you to be able to live above board in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tokwe Bikuli. Just to go back to a point you made earlier, you've given us some ideas, regarding how individuals can invest, while you were during your discussion. But the question is, does this also apply to organizations? Does it apply to business owners too? Particularly as we have business owners also listening in at the moment. So does this strategy also apply to business owners, or is it any different for business owners? Mr. Tokwe Bikuli.
Okay. Yes, it applies to everybody. The same thing like what she said initially, that the same way that you have a lot of stakeholders around you within your family. You have the husband, you have the wife, you have the children, you have those people that are depending on that same family. They are all your stakeholders. When you are planning, you bring every one of them into your plan and make necessary provision for different stakeholders within your budget. Like she said the other time, budget is for a year that allow you to be able to bring in your proposed expenditure and income, and to be able to match the two together. But you have another thing they call projection, which is an advanced stage of budget. It will allow you to be able to project that in the next 3 years, I want to build a house. Then definitely you have to plan. In the next 5 years, I want to relocate. Maybe where you are living currently, you don't really like that environment. It will allow you to be able to project towards it. So the same way that is applicable to an individual is the same way that is applicable to business. Because number one thing, your strategy, like what he said the other time, is she spoke about strategy, your financial strategy. If you don't have a financial strategy, there is no way you can draw up a budget. If you don't have a budget, there is no way you can plan ahead. And you have to measure each milestone to see that you are not deviating from the original plan. The moment that you are deviating from the original plan, if you have planned already, it will help you to be able to find a way to find a balance between your deviation and your original plan, and it will help you. For every business across the globe, the same thing is applicable to them. You have to plan, you have to draw up your budget. Having drawn up your budget, you have to agree to your original strategy, and if there are changes in your strategy in future, you have to, what it means that you have to review your strategic plan, you have to review your budget, your projection to be able to address those deviations. And by putting all those things together, it will help you to be able to see the big picture of your business and the big picture of where you are going.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mr. Tope Bikuli. This is to Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips. Someone that just sent a question to ask that, would it be right, would right now be a good time to invest in stocks, considering that the market has already started to climb? Do you think that right now is a good time to invest in stock, considering that the market has started to climb?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. There is something they call market intelligence. And it's very important that whatever it is that you want to go into, do an extensive research. If I decide that I want to invest in Marks and Spencer's, or let's even think about the airline industry. We all know that they've been hit quite badly. Now, what you will probably need to do, what I would do, like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. What I would do, if I decide I want to invest in a particular airline company, I will go and find out, okay, what's the price that is being traded at today? What is the price that it was traded at the same time last year? And if you look at those statistics, you will realize that the airline prices, although they went really below what they are now at the end of March, they are beginning to climb up, but they are not at the level that they were at the same time a year ago. So that tells you that there is a gap there for you to have opportunity to make some money. So those are things that you need to kind of investigate. You need to have market intelligence. You need to study what is the business of this company. And if the business itself hasn't changed, and if you look at the industry, what is the industry talking about in regards to that business? So if it's a supermarket, for example, we all know that supermarkets, initially their prices went down, but they recover quickly because they were not shut down. So those ones, you will need to look a little bit further into, okay, what is my motivation for buying this? Because their prices are almost back at where it was before the crash happened. So you need to look at the history and what the price is being traded at today. Is there still a room there for me to make a little bit of money? It doesn't have to be the 100% that we're talking about. Like I said, the iShares of physical gold alone, between 3 months, somebody got 11% on that. I'm sorry that I didn't, when I saw it on Tuesday, I wish I had actually traded iShares, because you put, the money that I have in the bank account did not earn me 11% in that 3 months. So, those are the things that we need to look at. So, the market is not fully recovered yet. For some industry, they have recovered. But for certain other areas, they are still in flux. They're still, up and down. I will give you an example, actually, on the pharmaceutical front. I think one of the ones that I featured on my slide was Moderna. Moderna is actually a U.S. company. It actually has a vaccine for this COVID-19 thing that they are already testing. And so if you had, to be honest, the price that are quoted there is actually below what it recovered to about a month ago. In May, it recovered to like about $70-something dollars, but now it's back at $60-something dollars. So if anybody had, sold it at $70-something dollars, they would probably be losing out, because if you hold it a little bit longer, they already have the vaccine in test, and they think the FDA will actually approve the vaccine over in the next 6 months. And trust me, if they approve that, their prices again is going to go through the roof. So if you had sold it at 70-something, and when it started falling, and you try to sell it, you are actually you are going to lose, the opportunity to earn a lot more in the increase that you could have earned. So that's what I mean, that you need market intelligence when you are choosing, what stocks and shares to actually invest in. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I just say quickly also that I think from your discussion, I can gather that it's also important that investors also remember that investments are also time bound. Is that right, Mrs. Judy Phillips? Because definitely you shouldn't expect to sow today and expect to reap 150% tomorrow. It has to be time bound. I mean, and these shares could be long term, is it, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, there should always be a strategy as to what you are trying to achieve. There should be the long term and there should be the short term. The one I'm talking about here that I just mentioned, it could potentially be for the long term because, this COVID-19 thing, we don't know when it's actually going to, we are going to recover completely from it. And when the vaccine comes out, we really don't understand what is going to be the effect of it. So, you have to always, you have to check what is happening, what is going on, and whatever I do today, what would that mean for me in 3 months' time or in a year's time? When I spoke about dividend paying companies, a lot of the time, you don't actually want to hold dividend paying companies for the short term, because it's in the long term that you will actually get your money back. Especially for those ones that they are still, their dividend is climbing every year. So if you buy a share in a company that pays dividend, and where at the time you bought it, they were paying 10p for every share that you own. In next year they increase it to 20, and then the next year they increase it to 30. You are still holding those shares at the price that you bought it at, but with capital increases. But at the same time, you are still getting income from that. So with dividend paying shares, you should be expecting to hold them for the long term because they will give you money back every 6 months or every year. And then at the end of it, depending on what you want to sell it, when you want to sell it, you will hopefully also have capital gains from the sale of the shares. So yes, the short and long term is actually quite important to have in your portfolio.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Judy Phillips. I'll just ask Mr. Tokwe Ebekole very quickly. Going back to the issue of what Mrs. Judy Phillips mentioned regarding the issue of COVID-19. Now, I know you are not a soothsayer, but from your experience, because you did explain to us the difference between financial and economic crisis. How do you think this COVID-19, very quickly, what are the likely way it could impact individuals? How is it likely to impact individuals?
Okay, thank you. Number one, health is wealth. Health is wealth, meaning that you have to stay safe. You cannot plan for the future when you cannot take hold of the current situation. So number one thing that you need to do as an individual is for you to stay safe. Number two, it will impact. It has positive effects and it has negative effects, but only the negative effects exceed the positive effects. One of the things that you've seen so far is disruption of supply chain across the globe as we speak today. And the impact is that one of the things that most of the people, that if you know that you are in employment, especially, let me deal with that as an individual, you need to stay ahead of the curve. What do I mean by staying ahead of the curve? You must be able to add value to the organization. Since we are in the new normal, it's not business as usual. There must be something. You must be able to think outside the box and do certain things that will make your employer believe that these are the kind of people that I would love to work with at a time like this. That's number one. Two, because of what she said earlier on concerning financial planning, supposing you set aside enough money, you've invested money before now, the good investment that you've made prior to COVID-19 will help you to be able to sustain yourself and sustain your family at a time like this. Then three, another thing we should think concerning COVID-19, because it's a crisis that we don't really know when it's going to end. We don't really know. People are just saying, okay, maybe in the next 3, 4, 5 months down the line. Can you even convince yourself of your family that I have liquidity that will be able to take us for the next 6 months without having recourse to anybody? Because really, like what she said, in Nigeria, as we speak today, treasury bill trades at 3%, 2%. So it's as good as nothing. So number one thing, if you are in play deployment that you can do now, because you don't have that expertise to be able to manage your funds very well, you can increase your contribution, your pension contribution. This is not the time that you want to increase your pension contribution, because we have what they call voluntary contribution in Nigeria. You can increase it and save towards your retirement, and you have access to that fund anytime. It's only that they will charge you a penalty for for asking for that fund without maturity for that. So that's another thing. Then apart from that, as a business, we have to go back to drawing board, say to ourselves, is it compulsory that the executives must be in the office? No. Well, since March, I've been at home, working from home, and I can tell you that working from home, although you work for long hours, but it's very, very effective. What it means is that it will reduce your cost from the other side, your operating expenses. Definitely, it will increase your bottom line. If you cannot enhance your revenue as you speak today, you should be able to optimize your cost. And that's why, for individual, as a business, you have to optimize your cost. You agree with me? There is no social gathering because of social distancing rule as we speak today. Why do you need to go and buy 50 pounds shirt, 100 pounds Thomas Pink shirt because you want to look nice? That's not essential as we speak. What matters as we speak today is she spoke about shelter, feeding your family, and all those things. So overall, either you like it or not, businesses, they've learned so many, because I wrote a paper to my CEO advising them on precautionary measures. You have to cancel travel. There are some expenses you need to cancel for now. No vacation, because that was the reason I said initially, stay safe. Because if anything should happen to you tomorrow, even though your financial planning, that's the end of the financial planning. So we have to reason together at a time like this and use wisdom, apply wisdom in every sense to be able to achieve our financial goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So in closing, I would ask Pastor Mrs. Judith, because we tend to have our listeners very interested in shares. So I would ask you a 3-barreled questions. So if you can answer that very quickly, because our time is very fast spent, if you can answer that in 4 minutes. Like I said, a 3-barreled question. What, how, and where can, or I'm talking of those who are interested in buying shares or investing in shares. What is shares? How can they invest in shares? And where can they invest in shares? So I've compressed 3 questions together. So in 4 minutes, how, where, and what is shares?
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I mean, you know, what shares, I think I've already alluded to as I spoke earlier. But essentially, you know, you really need to do your research as to what shares. It depends also on your strategy and your risk appetite. So, you know, what shares you want to go into. Is it for the long term? If it's for the long term, I suggest, you know, really get into the dividend paying shares. If it's, you know, you are looking to make, you know, money quickly, study the market and see the companies that their shares have really gone down. Like I said, I really can't make any, you know, recommendation because I'm not qualified to do that. You know, so, but how do you go about it? I mean, a lot of us have heard about ISAs. In the UK, you can open an ISA, at least one ISA account once, I mean, in a year. So, and for each ISA, I mean, for the ISA account, you are eligible to put 20,000 maximum into any ISA account in a year. But one ISA account you can spread, if you have more than one, you can spread your 20,000 across all the ISAs. Ultimately, what I would suggest is please don't put your money in cash ISA. Cash ISA are as good as you putting it in the bank on a savings account. They're not earning you any interest. So you are better off putting it into a stocks and shares ISA. And you have opportunity to actually decide on those stocks and shares ISA. You can take the risk appetite you have. If you want to have a high risk appetite of 20%, you can indicate 20% for high risk. 20% of emerging markets, that's considered like a high risk. And then I'm going to put 50% of it into, iShares that, straddle property iShares. Property, in the midst of everything that is going on, it went down, but guess what? As soon as the market opens and people can view houses again, the prices started shooting up again. And that was within about 2 weeks. So you can invest also in property iShares. It depends on your risk appetite. So, those are the vehicles. ISA is one of the vehicles through which you can actually invest your money. And then for individual shares, I spoke about the ISA. You can do that through your bank or through, an independent financial advisor. And some of the things that I'm speaking about, I mentioned about Benedicta earlier on. Benny Ratio Finance. These are also things that she can also help, to signpost people into doing. And, as far as the like I said, your bank, and then there are other apps. There are share trading apps actually available on the market all over. I don't want to make any recommendation in case something blows up in somebody's face and then, they'll be like, Pastor Judith Phillips said we should use this app. Please research the app. There are apps on the market that don't actually charge you a fee for trading. So you don't need a broker. If you have small amount of money right now, you don't need a broker because your broker will take a fee. But if you use these apps, there are apps on the market that don't charge you any fees. So you do your trading, whether you are selling or buying or whatever, that's all you pay. And, it's actually secured. And most of them, again, do your research. Most of them are FCA, kind of like approved. So if it's FCA approved, that means that you are safe to put your money with them. And I think I've covered the questions.
Yes, you have.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we've lost Pastor Mr. Tokwe Bikunle there. But anyway, Pastor Mrs. Judith Philip, do you have anything else to say? Because our time is already fast spent already. Do you have any parting words that you just want to mention quickly or stress?
Parting words, really, is just, stay safe. Let's educate ourselves where finances are concerned. Let's really focus. Anything that you don't focus on, it will just happen around you. Bible tells us that wealth has wings. It can fly away. And I always say this to educate people, to say that for every penny you have that does not have a name, that penny will disappear. I'm sure all of us can attest to the fact that you left the house at one point, you have 50 pounds in your pocket, but because it was 50 pounds in your pocket that was not in your pocket for a purpose, by the time you come back home, you will find out that, okay, I have 50 pounds. How come I've only now got 12 pounds in my pocket? What did I spend it on? Then you start racking your brain. That's how money flies. So I just want to enjoin you. You spend, these are our hard-earned income. We need to safeguard them. We need to make sure that they work for us. We have worked for it. Make the money to work for you now. So, and I just say happy investing, and please stay safe, and God bless you.
Thank you so much to our presenters today, our people who joined us, and for everyone who's watching at home. And thank you for our speakers, Pastor Mrs. Judith Phillips, and Mr. Tokwe Bikunle for joining us on today's virtual event. I'm sure you've enjoyed it, and want to encourage you to join us again next week for another one, which is focused on preparing for leadership. And I can assure you that we have two very interesting speakers who will also be joining us. MP, one is our MP, and the other is one of our councillors in Nottingham here. So I want to encourage you to please join us again next week. Until then, thank you for joining us again today, and thank you for our speakers, Mrs. Judith Phillips and Mr. Tokwe Bikunle. Until then, we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you, sir.